Morning, everybody, and we are going to be learning a little bit about how to change colors, lighting, and everything in a photo. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go into File, Open, go into Desktop, and I've got some landscape photos, and I am going to use this one, our little gravel road. So we've got something like this. Now, with Photoshop, all we're going to be doing is editing this photo. And so we're going to spend 5-10 minutes, and I'm just going to show you how to go through all of these. So up in here is image and adjustments, and this is the main way that we go about editing our image. And so I've got right here, this is a window that I've called, this is history. And if you ever want to open that window, history, and then you can see what you're doing. So we're going to go image, adjustments, and we'll start with this. Well, yeah, we'll start with brightness and contrast. I always move the window over someplace so I can see what I'm doing. And so we're going to edit this picture a little bit. So we're going to change the brightness. We're going to change the contrast. You can see how dull it gets and how contrasty it gets. So somewhere, don't always go all the way to the end, but you've got something like this. Okay? Then I'm going to go into image adjustments and I go into my levels. And here's another trick. So levels, I always move the black arrow so it's a little bit darker, the white arrow so it's the lights get a little bit lighter, and then the grays, you can kind of figure out what looks best. Again, subtle probably does the most and the best work. Then we get into curves, we get into exposure, we get into vibrance. Vibrance is going to um, boost the color a little bit. This one's always a fun one. And so what we can do with this is obviously it's going to change it completely. Sometimes you want to go more subtle. A lot of times with our students, I go into colorize. And so it makes it monochromatic. And then you can change it any color that you want to. And so I always also boost the color, boost the saturation. The saturation is the color, the vibrance of the color itself. And so you can do any of these that you want, but you can see what the changes that you can do. I'm actually going to hit cancel on this one because I want to go back to this picture. Then I'm going to go into image adjustments, and we get into color balance. We can get into black and white. We can get into photo filters. All of these do a lot of different things. I'm going to come back to this one. You can invert, which obviously looks terrible. So I'm going to go Command Z and go back to what I had. Image adjustments, we go posterize, and then that turns it into something, just a couple of colors, which I don't like for this. Image adjustments. Threshold, we are not going to be using this very often until much, much later, but then you can do something like this. You can see that obviously isn't going to work for what we're trying to do. And then we can get into a lot of different other, you can go desaturate it, which takes all the color out, and then it just makes it a black and white photo. I'm going to go Command Z and go back. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go into adjustments, and then I'm going to go photo filter. And so what I want to do with this picture is I want to warm it up. And so I'm adding kind of an orangish tint to it, so give it a little warmer look to the photo. Now maybe I want to make it cooler, and so I'll go into the blues, and you can see how this is going to give off the impression that it's kind of a cold, wintry day. But if I want to boost this to make it look a little like a warmer day, then I'm going to go with something like this. And you can see the warmth that the photo has. And so I think it started somewhere down here, which isn't much. And so I boosted it. Again, you don't want to go too far, but you want to have something in there. So it gives it that warmer aspect. So those are some simple little tricks that you can do to touch up your photo. Now I'm going to go in here a little bit, and I'm going to, let's go, we can dodge, we can burn. These are kind of fun. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to burn this area. So I'm going to make my brush size bigger. It's just to the right of the letter P. There's some brackets. And what I'm going to do is just darken that area just a little bit. I don't know if you saw what I did, but I did exposure about 50%, and I just darken that area. So I burned it. I could even burn this area just a little bit to darken it. Now if I want to, I can go into dodge, and what dodge does, now I'm making these brushes a little bit bigger, is it's going to lighten an area. And sometimes you want that. Maybe it's just a little bit too dark, and so you want to lighten it. And then I'm going to go into one more, hold this down. I'm going to go on the sponge, and what the sponge does is it saturates it or desaturates it. If I desaturate this, here's what's going to happen. It's going to start turning it more grays, which isn't what we want. So I'm going to go back 2 steps. Okay. Now if I want to saturate it, that's going to pull the colors more, I guess, add more vibrancy to your photos. And so the color gets a little bit stronger. And so those are some little tricks that I wanted to show you. Now, if I go back to my regular picture, that's where I started, and that's where I'm at now. So what I'd love to see you do is try to make this picture look better as best you can. And if you want, we may even do one where you just go a completely different route. And maybe it doesn't look good, but you want to make it monochromatic for a second one. You want to make it very different. So you want to end up with something that's looking like this hue saturation, and you want it to look something like that. Okay? That's always an option too. So we might end up doing 2 different ones for this assignment. One of a better color so it looks nicer, and then one that's just totally different, and see what you can do. So hopefully this helped you with learning a little bit about color edits and changing the pictures a little bit. So thanks for watching, and hopefully you got something out of this.